Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Hi there, football is back. It's coming home. I'm Bruce Millington. Welcome along to the Racing Post Football Postcast, our first one of the 2018-2019 season. And no transfer window here, no transfer activity. We've got the A team still here, Mark Langdon and Dan Childs, plus from Paddy Power, Adrian Croak, who's got all the odds, hopefully some winners as well. Right then, so hopefully you've had time to digest, or partially digest, there is so much in it. The 72-page epic big kickoff that Dan, Mark and the rest of the heroes from the sports desk put together and was out yesterday. But we'll be going through all the markets, top of the Prem, bottom of the Prem, sack race, handicap, top scorers, match bets, and then we'll go right through the leagues into Europe, bit of Scotland, and we will round off with the lads' best bets for week 1 of the new season, which of course starts on Friday night. So all very exciting. World Cup's behind us. We're now focused very much on the domestic. Let's start with the Premier League and we'll look at who is going to be champions. Who's going to succeed Man City? Will it be Man City? They are, of course, favourites. Adrian, how do Paddy Power bet on the Premier League?
So currently we have Man City 8-13, Liverpool are 4s, United are 15-2, Chelsea are 12s, Spurs are 16s, and Arsenal round out the top 6 at 25s.
And Adrian, you're actually quite short Man City, you guys, aren't you? Do you take the view that they're good champions and that unlike so many recent champs, they will actually put up a really good defence?
Yeah, that's pretty much the exact view we're taking here. We're taking the gap between City and the rest of the squad. The rest of the league is just too severe. I mean, they went off favourite in every game last year. We look at them probably doing the same again this year, so we think they should be able to continue on. Like they haven't had to really improve the squad. I suppose Mahrez is a slight improvement on the bench players there, but it's David Silva kind of being held on to is what we're looking at the best thing. So yeah, City is we're staying under them really.
19 points they won it by, Mark, last season. Do you expect them to dominate? Do you expect them to win? If so, do you think that gap will increase, decrease?
I think it will decrease. I can't believe that they're going to win 18 Premier League games in a row like they did. Was in their first 20 matches. It was just phenomenal, really, wasn't it? Up until like New Year, they dropped points New Year's Eve against Crystal Palace. Before that, it was only that game against Everton when they were down to 10 men. I mean, that is really almost impossible, and not impossible, but you just can't see that happening again. Just randomness of luck, somewhere along the line they could lose a game. And I think if you haven't got that by Christmas, it was all over last year. I just think that if you get somebody that can go with them for the first few months, it becomes more difficult to win the games that they then subsequently did so. So they won it without pressure last year. Down to their brilliance, but also down to the ineptitude of the others early on. You think Liverpool were out of the game by October. Tottenham couldn't settle at Wembley. Chelsea had the Conte crisis early on. Arsenal were Arsenal. Manchester United did so for a while, but it was very easy for City. I expect them to win it, but I don't think it will be anywhere near as comfortable this time around.
And Dan, who's your fancy this time?
I'll go with Manchester City again. I think. I don't think they'll drop off massively. I think Guardiola sets such high standards, but I agree, just the randomness of football, if you like, that they're unlikely to get to those points heights again. I think even Guardiola sort of alluded to that towards the end of the season, how hard it would be to match those efforts. But I mean, the squad doesn't look any weaker. Mahrez coming in, if anything. I mean, he was one of the top assists makers, wasn't he, last season? City have already got Silva and De Bruyne in the side as well. Sterling had a great season last season. I just, even defensively, they're the best defence in the league as well. I just don't see how any of those challengers are going to bridge that gap. I think Liverpool are going to get the closest. Look at the business they've done. In the winter, the defence looks a lot better after
Van
Dijk came in. Alisson looks a very good goalkeeper as well, modern day goalkeeper, great shot stopper, good with the ball at his feet as well. And Keita as well, who's already been signed, but I think him coming in as well will be a big influence on the side. So I would say them to come second maybe to City would be another way of looking at it.
Okay, I might just quickly on City before we move on to the other challenges. I guess the real change to that starting 11 is just the return of Mendy at left back.
Yeah, I mean, this stage of the season, you always get they're like a new signing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Mendy really is like a new signing because he was a new signing last year, barely played. I mean, Delph did an incredible job, really, at left back, considering he's a central midfielder. But I think Mendy gives them so much more going forward. I mean, Guardiola, when he was on Monday Night Football right at the end of the season, sort of talking about his philosophy and how he does things, he spoke about them not being able to play maybe with a three at the back because Delph couldn't go up and down, but he'd come inside. But now Mendy gives them that option if they do want to change it up and go to three at the back. Maybe in some of them big games, away at Anfield when they lost 4-3, they could, if they wanted to, be a little bit more solid. And I think Mahrez coming in, if you've got question marks over David Silva, can he continue, given his age? Bernardo Silva now can just come in and play in central midfield, and you've got Mahrez on the wing. They had the top 4 assist makers in the league last year, and then they bought the 5th one as well in Mahrez, and we haven't even mentioned Aguero and Jesus as the 2 that can rotate up front. I mean, very few other teams have got that kind of quality to just come in and out of the team. They're a very strong side. I mean, there's a case for saying they're the best team in Europe, I think.
There is a very strong endorsement from all 3 of the experts there for Man City. If we look then at the battle behind them, Dan's already suggested that Liverpool are the ones that might be the ones that chase them home this time. Adrian, just give us the latest betting without Man City, if you would.
So yeah, for that one, we do have Liverpool favourite at the moment. They're sitting there at 11-10. United are 11-4. Chelsea are 5-1. Spurs are 15-2, and Arsenal are 17-2.
Okay, so Dan likes Liverpool in the without City market. Adrian, who's your fancy in that one?
Yeah, I think it probably is Liverpool is what you're looking at there. They're comfortably the best team at the moment, given the state Man United are in. I mean, Liverpool could be going off odds on at home to them if they're playing the first week of the season. Of the outsiders there, Spurs, you kind of worry about the length of the season with all their players kind of still not back into pre-season yet. Chelsea might lose a few players, and Arsenal, I mean, they're still Arsenal. I mean, they haven't really improved the squad by a great deal, just slightly. So I think Liverpool should really comfortably wrap up second here.
And I think we're going to get unity of thought on this one as well, Mark, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, I tipped up the dual forecast in the big kickoff. The one I was slightly concerned in the fact that you don't have to finish second. If say Liverpool go deep in the Champions League again, and that they may just throw it in and finish 3rd or 4th like they did last season. I mean, towards the end of the season, they weren't that bothered about the Premier League. So you have got to just put a little asterisk by that one. I mean, I'm never that comfortable backing a team to do something where they don't need to do it. But I totally agree that they are the second best team. I thought they were the second best team last season, and they've identified the weaknesses where they had and have improved them just immeasurably, really. I mean, particularly in goal. To go from Karius to Alisson, I mean, that's even bigger jump than when Man City went from Bravo to Ederson. So, and I think Naby Keita could be the signing of the season as well.
Well, he let 5 in half an hour on his last game at Anfield. I mean, they'll be hoping it takes him a little longer to let 5 in this time, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, that was unfair on Alisson, really. I mean, that defence for the Roma that day was crazy, wasn't it?
I think also if you fancy them as well to finish second to City, the fact that you think there's going to be a smaller gap between the two, it means that it's going to keep them interested for longer as well, isn't it? And that helps you in that.
Yeah, maybe. Well. I mean, obviously, if they are going for the title, then I mean they can't.
And that keeps their motivation for longer, doesn't it? So yeah.
Okay, so let's go through. So we've got the big 6. First of all, does anyone think that the big 6 won't be the top 6, Mark?
I can't see anyone outside.
Can't see anyone breaking in?
No, absolutely not.
Dan, you're shaking your head as well?
I just can't see any of them top 6 having such a stinker, really. And outside of it, you're thinking, what's the largest amount of points that any of these teams are going to get to? And
they're not getting to 70.
No. And I would fancy all of those big 6. I think Arsenal will improve a bit. I think you're going to need to get to 70 to challenge.
Right then, the next question for you chaps is name the top 6 in correct order. Adrian, away you go.
I'm going to pick City, Liverpool, Chelsea. After that, it's the hardest pick, really. Going to go United, Spurs, Arsenal.
Mark?
Yeah, I'm going to go for Man City to win it, Liverpool second, Tottenham third. I think the lack of signings. I mean, so what? They finished third, second, third last 3 seasons. I mean, they've, if they would have signed Harry Kane, everyone would have been going crazy. They've just got him on a new long-term contract. Pochettino has stayed despite interest from Real Madrid. Moving into a new stadium, I think, is a benefit to them. Fourth, I'm going to go for Chelsea. I think
they're the 11 right now that we've got least visibility on.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't know what the team's going to be at the start of the season, but I mean, their first year under Conte, they won the league, and last year they were 7-2. This year they're about 14-1 to win the Premier League. So I think you can make a value case for them certainly finishing in the top 4. I've gone for Man United 5th. I just don't think they're as far clear as the other teams as what the odds suggest. I've got Arsenal tentatively in 6th. I mean, I expect them to improve. It's just by how much.
I'd have Arsenal absolutely untentatively in 6th. I mean, it's hard to see them being anywhere else.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, how much was...
They might overhaul United, I would say.
Yeah, I just you look at that sort of front end of the pitch, Mkhitaryan, Ozil, Aubameyang, Lacazette. I mean, that could do some damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm along with you, Bruce. Just that last comment that you made there, they might overhaul United. I think they will overhaul United.
So who's your 6th then, Dan?
I'm the same with the top 4: City, Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea. But I think Arsenal may get above Manchester United. I think there's quite a bad feeling there at the moment. Mourinho. When he's third year at a club, often things seem to go a bit pear-shaped, don't they? And the pre-season's not going well. Lack of signings. They're a bit lucky on occasions last season as well. They nicked a lot.
They had the luck
games.
That was missing the season before. I thought the season before they were
saved them a lot. I know he's a world-class keeper, but he did need to save them on too many occasions, really. And I think Arsenal will improve. Torreira's the holding midfielder player that they've been looking to kind of get hold of for years under Wenger. They've signed Socrates to boost the central defence, which they needed with Koscielny being injured. Got goals in the side, as Mark's mentioned, with Aubameyang and Lacazette. Ozil looks at the moment like he's really focused on the club side of things. I just think they will improve quite a bit and they'll overhaul United.
I've zoned out in past years when Mourinho opens his fat gob because I'm not interested in the filth that comes out of it. But he's so dour and so negative, Mark. Is this some kind of clever pantomime act, or is he close to turning it in? Is he just trying to position to get more signings? What's going on?
I think he is trying to position himself to get more signings, but I can't have the way that he's trying to go about it, ridiculing the younger players that were on the tour when everybody else is in the same position, and talks up these young players just to give them a little boost if nothing else. But he's this thing about making the players or making them feel bad for having a holiday. I mean, they're only playing Leicester on the opening day, and Leicester are in the same position. Maguire and Vardy are not playing.
Or having a baby.
Yeah, I mean, and then Martial, Martial wants
to have a baby.
I mean, Martial tweeted, there were no complications in terms of the baby was fine, but the mum wasn't doing so great initially. I mean, who is Jose Mourinho to start demanding that somebody he doesn't even want? That's the other thing. He doesn't even want Martial.
He's a pathetic individual, isn't he? Everyone's tired of him. What I don't get, Mike, is why aren't the Man United fans, why aren't they ripping into him and absolutely demanding he leaves the club?
You know why? Because it's the same thing with the Chelsea ones. It's okay for them to do it sort of privately amongst themselves, but they kind of get this defence mechanism up. And it happened with Chelsea, and then, of course, their fans did turn on Mourinho. Once he left, they were having a right pop at him at Stamford Bridge the last couple of years, and I suspect the same thing will happen if Mourinho doesn't win the title soon.
United's form figures since Fergie left are 7-4, 5-6-2. So actually tipping them to be outside the top 4. A lot of you kind of match of the day pundits, they're big, that can't happen. But in actual fact, the form tells you it's every chance, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, their centre backs are just not good. The centre backs are just not good enough. I mean, Smalling can't even get in the England squad. Jones can't get a game in the England squad. He's fallen out with Bailly. Rojo's not great either. I mean, that's the reason why De Gea was so brilliant. I think he's won Player of the Season for United like 4 of the last 5 years or 3 of the last 4. I mean, that tells you in itself that there's problems there, defensively. And that's why I think one of the reasons why he is so defensive in games, because he knows himself that defence needs protecting.
Absolutely. Adrian, Man U, what's your view on them?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the centre back thing. That is their main issue. Like you look at what Liverpool did with Van Dijk last season, how much of an improvement it is. They need to go out and spend 60 or 70 million pounds on a centre back. Any centre back is better than what they currently have. Outside of that, I mean, their midfield is pretty good. I think Fred should be decent form. They're not going to be a worse team than last year, is my seeing. The only issue is it is Mourinho, and is he creating a kind of a toxic atmosphere at that club? Is it going to fall into disarray? And then it's how fast will the board get rid of him if they do start failing? Because from what you've seen pre-season, it's been a farce. I don't know what United fans are like in England, but back here, I don't know any United fan that actually wants Jose Mourinho as the manager of that club. I don't know any United fan that wanted him appointed to be the manager of that club. I think for a club that size, if your fans don't want you in there, they need to get a better appointment there. There's better managers than Mourinho at this stage.
And yet, and this is what I admire about the Man U fans, they don't protest in a negative way, do they? It's like what you're saying just then. I mean, personally speaking, I think they should just get on everyone's case and get it done and get him out.
I think it's really interesting, Bruce, because Chelsea have got an attack-minded coach for the first time in a long. I mean, AVB, lasted about 2 months or whatever it was. So I mean, I don't really count that. So Chelsea have got an attack-minded coach. Unai Emery is demanding that Arsenal play this high press, aggressive football. The other teams, we already know the way they play. They could end up looking like dinosaurs if they don't change. And then I think the pressure really does crank up if you don't win. And, the Europa League and League Cup don't really count for Manchester United. That's not where they want to be. And Liverpool were mocked for reaching the Champions League final and not winning it, and this kind of Klopp still hasn't won a trophy. I'd much rather have Jurgen Klopp in charge of my team than Jose Mourinho.
I love this headline I saw the other day, and it says something like Mourinho turns up the heat on Klopp. I mean, it's just pathetic, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. Now then, this is exciting. To mark the start of the new season, Paddy Power are giving a £100 or €100 free bet away. To qualify, just tweet the answer to the following question with the hashtag Postcast, and you will be in the hat with a chance to win. The question is, who is favourite with Paddy Power to be the top Premier League scorer? We will pick one winner at random and announce them on Twitter next week. Good luck. Well worth going for. You've got nothing to lose. Just say the answer, tweet it with the hashtag Postcast, and you could be in it. Right, let's look at the Golden Boot now. And Adrian, why don't you give us the latest bet on who's going to be the top Premier League scorer?
So currently we have Harry Kane favourite at 13-5.
Who?
Mohamed Salah.
Sorry, who?
Yeah, he's a new rookie. He might do something this
Harry
year.
Kane is favourite, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mo Salah 11-2, Pierre Aubameyang 13-2, Aguero's at 8s, Lukaku's at 8s, and Gabriel Jesus is at 12s.
Okay, right, Dan, you're our designated. Mark, you did the Golden Boot this year, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Okay, well, let's get Dan's thoughts on it then. Away you go, mate.
Right, I just think, look, it's obvious that Kane's going to be there or thereabouts if he doesn't get injured. But do I want to back him at that kind of price? Over 38 games? Not really, no. So, Salah's had one fantastic season. I think you could argue that because he hasn't had a series of good seasons like Kane, he's possibly even worse value. So I'm looking further down the list, really. And I thought Lacazette at 25-1. Arsenal score a lot of goals. Seems to be playing centrally at the moment. There's a bit of talk about whether Aubameyang's going to play left or central, and whether they can fit the two of them into the same team. But last season he got 14 goals. Had quite a chunk of it when he was injured as well, didn't he? In the springtime. So that's not a bad return. I think he went off the ball a little bit as well, form-wise, at the sort of around the turn of the year as well. But
is he on pens?
Well, I think they shared them.
The usual
him and
If you get fouled, you don't take
I just think second season he may do even better than the first, and I thought 25-1 was a reasonable shout for him. You look over his career as well, his goal scoring ratio is pretty good as well. So even further down the list, I come a cropper putting Raheem Sterling up for at the World Cup, but I'm gonna put him up. I'm going to say each way at 66-1. He was fifth last season in overall. I mean, the bookies are going first four for the Golden Boot. So 66-1 for a guy who was fifth last season. He's not getting any worse at Manchester City. If anything, there's still more room for improvement. The chances he gets in games and he's finishing, if it does improve a little bit more as time goes on, he could get even more goals, and that will push him into an each way reckoning for me.
I'm not having that one, I'm afraid. I like Lacazette. Mark?
I agree with Dan that I don't think you want to be backing short prices really in this. I mean, you won.
Mark, just tell me this, sorry. How many games is Kane and all these guys likely to miss at the
I would
start of the
say
season?
one. I mean,
Really?
I mean, Kane, for instance, Kane, I don't think he's been abroad this year. His partner's quite heavily pregnant.
He went to Scotland for the
golf. He went
golf.
to Scotland for the golf. He tweeted, he thanked for the birthday message. It looked like he was like Centre Parks or some lodge type place the other day. I mean, he's already said he wanted to come back early. I don't think Pochettino was having that. But they're all returning to pre-season training on Monday, the Tottenham lot. So, I mean, they probably won't play against Newcastle, but you might even get him on the bench for 15, 20 minutes. So, I mean, I wouldn't factor it in too much because I think it's only going to be the one game. So and Salah's already back and playing, of course, in pre-season for Liverpool. I'm going to chuck 3 out there. I think Firmino, he matched Salah in the Champions League. They both got 10 each. And I just think playing centrally for that Liverpool team that creates so many chances. Last year it was Salah, who's to say this year it won't be Firmino that gets on the end of those chances. And then Jamie Vardy. Placed 2 in the last 3 years. I mean, he'd probably be even more influential for Leicester now that Mahrez isn't around. And he's on Leicester penalties. And I think Maddison's a really good signing for Leicester. Slip him in, through balls all day long.
Maddison's slightly more central, isn't he? Or is he like for like?
I think he'll probably play him centrally. Yeah, I think
he looked a lovely player.
He really did. And then, not just because it's going to please you, Bruce, but I thought Zaha was one that you
well,
could...
yeah, there's a slight twist to this argument, isn't
well,
there?
yeah, I mean, one of the reasons for fancying him is that he might go to, say, a Chelsea or Tottenham, and that'll increase his chances. But he played centre forward for bits of last season.
Oh, he will do. I think he'll play alongside either Benteke or Sordorf up front.
Finished the season really well in terms of goal scoring. And, yeah, he could be the type of player, if he does stay at Crystal Palace, everything goes through him and he may just sneak a place at a really big price.
Love that. Good shout. Adrian, who are your golden boot picks?
Yeah, I kind of did like a bit of Aubameyang at the 13-2 of the top 3 favourites. He scored 10 goals in 13 games for Arsenal last year, which he's been the big mover in the market so far. The one for the Liverpool players, it was Mane is what we were kind of looking at. He was available at 80s earlier in the year, but it seems to be all kind of gone now. Just for the each way part of that. I mean, he was 25s last year. Salah came on the scene, but maybe it could be Mane's year in the same way that it could be Firmino's. It's hard to know who gets the goals at Liverpool, but we are expecting Chelsea to be one of the biggest scoring teams this year with Sarri there. We just don't know who's going to play through the middle, but we do know Hazard's going to play, so I think 33-1 for Hazard could be great each way value, really.
Excellent, good stuff. Thank you, lads. That's part 1 done. We will be looking at the other end of the table next.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new, fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Welcome back. Let's look now at the other end of the Premier League table and the relegation market. Which 3 teams are going to go down? The lads will have their say after Adrian has furnished us with the latest from Paddy Power on who makes the drop.
So Cardiff are sitting in there at favourite at 4-6. Huddersfield are 11-10. Then it's Brighton 7-4, Watford 9-5, Fulham 15-8, Burnley 7-2, Bournemouth 9-2, Newcastle 5s, Palace 11-2, Southampton 7-1, and newly promoted Wolves at 7-1.
So, Mark, are we any 3 from 13 or 14?
No, I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, you think how bad, say, Everton were last season and that they've still comfortably finished top half despite their disasters. No, I think it's much fewer candidates than that. What I would say is I think the 2 that came up in Wolves and Fulham are better, much better than ordinarily would come up. So I think that puts a few of the established Premier League teams in trouble, a bit like last season when they all stayed up, and then you get, Stoke and Swansea and West Brom, who've been around for a while, relegated. Of the shorter prices, I mean, I think Cardiff will go down, but I wouldn't back them odds on. I think Huddersfield are fair enough. They did great to stay up last season, but they were odds on. They got off to a flyer and then just kind of hung on. Didn't have many goals in them. I think they will get relegated. They're quite lucky the way the fixtures fell at the end of the season. Man City had already become champions. Chelsea rotated their whole team and they just about got over the line. I think it could be a more difficult season for them And of the bigger prices, I mean, I just thought Bournemouth were way overpriced. They, in terms of clean sheets, they kept the same as Stoke last year, and I don't see that they've done enough to improve themselves at the back.
7th in the second half of the season table, Mark. Do you take that as a slight worry?
Not really, because on expected goals, they were 17th, and I'd be far more sort of looking at that. I mean, they did finish the second half of the season well. You look how many games they won late on, and some people say that's the sign of a good team, powers of recovery. I look at it the other way and think that, you know, it's unsustainable to keep getting injury time goals and 90th minute winners. You write down the reasons why they'll stay up, and I've got Eddie Howe, and that's about it really. And even good managers get relegated. Jurgen Klopp, Rafa Benitez, both been relegated. And I like Wagner and I like Eddie Howe, but I think that they're in trouble this year.
Okay, so they're the two you'd back. Would you throw Cardiff in as your three to go?
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing the tri-cast, I mean, I just think that Cardiff have signed players almost with one eye on being a good Championship team next season.
Okie doke. Dan, who goes?
Of three teams, I've got. I mean, Huddersfield. I don't think they've done enough to strengthen from last season. I thought that the momentum. You think about their home games last season. Now the crowd was so with them week in, week out. That must have been worth a lot of points. And I think to try and keep that going into the second season is tough. And I think they've not done enough to improve the team. I think they'll go, as Mark's mentioned. I think it's a tougher division as well. When you've got Fulham and Wolves coming up. And actually, I think Cardiff, although they'll probably be in the bottom three, I don't think they're without a chance of staying up. I think with Warnock, they'll be tough to play against Cardiff. They'll make life difficult for teams. You know, the style of play is not to everyone's liking, and they have added Bobby Reid. I know he's a Championship player, but did well for Bristol City last season, and Josh Murphy as well. So they have upgraded their attacking options a little bit. So I would say they'll probably be bottom three, but there's certainly not value to bet for a bottom three finish. I think Southampton are value to go down 7-1. You look at them last season, you know, have they got much better over the summer? They've lost Tadic, who was one of their most creative players. He's fallen out with a few players as well, Mark Hughes. So they've got Vestergaard in who will beef up the defensive options a little bit, but I still think the defence, since Van Dijk went, it's not really it's not in the same level it was in those days. So and I don't really rate Hughes as a manager. If I'm being honest.
I don't know how he keeps getting these jobs. I've no idea.
He doesn't seem to progress teams to me. I think he's gone in there. I think almost if whoever went in last season, they were probably a slightly better side than they've been showing, and they picked up a couple of results at the end of the season that have saved them. Fair enough. Well, did they actually look a lot better in those games? I'm not so sure. And it's a little bit. Remember when Redknapp went in at the end of the season at Birmingham, picked up a couple of wins, and he stayed there, and it was a disaster to start the season after. And it could be similar here for Hughes at Southampton. So I just think they're too big at that price. Burnley, the other one I've mentioned. I'm going to look stupid to say it, I suppose, but I just think they're winning a lot of tight games. Europa League, it depends on if they get through.
They'll toss that off, won't they?
They've got a tough.
I don't think they were. It's Istanbul.
The
next round if they beat Aberdeen.
But even if they do get knocked out, I look at their squad and they haven't really upgraded it much. And sometimes it's dangerous. You think of Stoke, the season before last, they were very, very comfortable, and the expectations of the supporters are quite high. If you then start badly, if Burnley have a dodgy start, I just think it could go the other way. There's a fine line between being, you know, 8th in the league and fighting against the drop.
And they were XG freaks last year, weren't they?
They were, yeah. They were.
And injuries, they don't get any injuries. So, you know, if that changed, they've got Pope's a massive out for them. There was a big influence last season. So because there was a lot of. They were quite low down on the number of shots, you know, on Burnley's goal as well. He was a big part of keeping all those clean sheets that they kept. So, no, I just think that there could be a big drop-off and they may end up in the bottom three.
Lovely. And Adrian, who are your fancies to drop down to the Championship?
Yeah, I think Huddersfield should be favoured of this market. Cardiff, yeah, you look at the squad, I mean, they'll all be definitely putting in 100% effort. I don't think you'll run out of that from them, but they probably don't enough there. Then off the rest of that, I think those two teams are such dead certs that there's probably a little less value in it. If you're looking for the outsiders, I was looking at something like maybe Watford, who you don't know what you're going to get there. They're probably going to struggle, but I think Fulham and Wolves, as the lad said, two of the better teams to come up out of the Championship. I think Wolves are probably too big a price at 7s if Fulham are 15 at 8.
I think much more Fulham being too short, isn't it? That's a terrible price for them to go down, isn't it?
I agree,
I think they've bought really impressively this summer, haven't they?
Yeah, they really have. Seri for them looks to be a great purchase. Schürrle hasn't been great at Dortmund, but I mean, Sessegnon, if he's anywhere near as good as he was in the Championship at this level, like he could be top class. They need to hold on to him for the year anyway. I'd be back and Fulham for the best promoted team, but the third team that goes down, it's pick a coin really here. The lads have all made great arguments.
Talk to me about Newcastle and the Rafa Benitez situation, Adrian. What do you make of that?
If Rafa goes back Newcastle, that would be that. I mean, even with him there, you look through the Newcastle squad, that's very weak. It's fives is probably a good price for him there. Palace, I think, have done well. I don't think Palace should be knocking around there this year.
Just depends, doesn't it? Wilf goes, then it's a totally different conversation, I think.
They made a purchase this morning. I think that was pretty good. I can't remember who it was.
They bought Chiarti from West Ham. We were hoping to get Max Meyer from Germany and Ayew from Swansea as well. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be okay. Relegation's really interesting this year, and obviously it's a market that will run and run. It's one that gets a huge amount of attention. One that gets slightly less attention is to finish bottom, which is actually, sometimes if you fancy a team to really bomb, there's much better value in backing them to finish bottom. What's the latest you've got there, Adrian?
So we've got Cardiff here at 9-4, Huddersfield are 4s, Brighton are 7-1, Watford 8-1, Fulham 8s, Burnley 9-1, Bournemouth 10-1, and Newcastle 20s.
So given how negative you all are about Huddersfield, wouldn't you rather go 4-1 to finish bottom?
I mean, you could do. I mean, I just always think we say them and Cardiff, like they will keep going until the end. It may be like a Newcastle if Benitez went and you fancy them for relegation, which is a reason why I'd said to sell their points, because I don't think there's much upside to them, but they could absolutely tank. We haven't spoken about Brighton. I just think they've got a very solid defence and they've added goals into their team. So with Houghton in charge, I think they'll just sort of draw
they'll be
enough.
All right.
Yeah, they'll draw and just win enough of their
Duffy
kind
and
of homes.
Dunk are good centre backs, aren't they? Yeah.
Let's talk then about which manager is likely to be the first one to go. If we take you through the last 4 years, 2 have been Palace managers actually. Pulis went on August the 15th. The year after that, Advocaat left Sunderland. We had to wait till October the 4th for the first departure there. Guidolin in October the 13th 2 seasons ago. And then last year, De Boer went on September the 11th. What's the latest on the first manager to leave their post, Adrian?
So Claude Puel is favoured at 5-1, followed up by Jose at 11-2. Javi Garcia takes 6-1. Benitez is 6-1. Warnock is at 8-1. Hughes is 9s. Pellegrini is sitting there at 16s, which is a strange one to me. And then Roy Hodgson, the hot seat that is Crystal Palace, is also 16-1.
Mark, I mean, what did you make of Benitez's comments last night? It was very, very negative. Again, is it as with Jose, he's just trying to force Ashley to open his cheque?
We said this throughout last year when he kept being favourite. He didn't leave when they were relegated, and he didn't leave despite the broken promises last season. So, I mean, I don't see why he just quit. I mean, he's on it's a no-lose situation for him, because if they go down or completely bomb, everybody will blame Mike Ashley. He's in the last year of his contract. He'll get another job easily enough, I would have thought, in the Premier League if he wants to stay. So, I mean, I think he's bad value in that market, and I think that Jose Mourinho's bad value in that market as well. It's very rare for big clubs to switch first, really. I mean, Chelsea have done it a couple of times, but they run differently to I think to the other big sides. I mean, Puel is short with Paddy Power. I think he is in danger if Leicester don't start well. But I just think Garcia at Watford, they haven't signed enough players. Maybe it'll change in the last week, but I mean, he could probably walk past the street and most people wouldn't even know who he is. He didn't make much of an impression outside of Hertfordshire, I don't think, last season. He did okay to keep them up, but I just think that he's quite easily one you can get rid of, not that expensive. He'll take the flak if Watford don't start well.
Watford would be one of those clubs that Sam Allardyce is busy keeping track of on video, isn't it?
Dan's not happy about that. Dan's season ticket holder at Watford. You
wouldn't want Big Sam in there, no?
No, they don't really play that sort of type of football since the Graham Taylor days. They do.
God, we've got the Watford way now as well. The West Ham way. Now we've got the Watford way. Who do you think will go first?
I do agree though with what Mark said. I think he's a decent manager actually, Grazia, but. I just think at the moment, every manager, we've been saying there's some good managers that could get dragged into a relegation battle. And I think with Watford at the moment, this summer they've been a bit more complacent. I don't know if it's complacency or because of the transfer window. That could be affecting them as well, because Watford, more than a lot of other clubs, because of the Pozzo system, they compete for players with a lot of other European clubs. So for our window to be shutting way before the rest of Europe, that's a big disadvantage for Watford, who often look to do a lot of late business, in the transfer window. So I think that's affecting their recruitment, and it's going to be really crucial what happens in the next 6 to 7 days. So I don't think the squad looks quite right at the moment. Richarlison going, I know he had a terrible second half of the season, but he wasn't, going to be a big part of Watford, in this season, and it gives them a lack of options there on the wing. Delafeu is a good player, but he's injury prone. Pereira sort of plays tucked in wide, so and you need Troy Deeney to get back a bit of form. He had a disastrous season last season. I think he was suspended for 7 games, and had injury problems as well. So I just think, and the start, they've got 3 of the big 6. Spurs, Arsenal. I'm trying to think who the third big 6 team is, but they've got 3 big 6 teams in the first 7 games. Puts a hell of a lot of pressure on the first 2 home games. I think first 2 home games are Brighton and Palace. If they don't win either of them, the board are going to look at it after 7 games and start thinking, oh my God, where are we here? And as we know, the board are not slow to make changes. So
you're both
reasons,
going for
even though
Garcia, yeah?
I don't think he's a bad manager, I just think that is a good price. I would also give a mention to Puel, because Leicester, the expectations I think are too high. I think they'll have an okay season, but if they have a bad start, he could be under pressure. And Hughes as well, although Southampton do stick by their managers and he's got a connection with a club, if they have a bad enough start, he could be under pressure as well.
Okay, and Adrian, who do you like?
Yeah, I think it's Puel probably here. It's just, you need a kind of a boardroom or an owner that's a bit trigger happy. I don't think you have that at Southampton, so that's why Hughes is safe. As Lad said, Mourinho, I think everybody wants him gone, but United aren't going to chuck him this time of the season. So it's between Garcia and Puel for me, and I think Puel is probably a little closer to that hot seat than Garcia at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to put in a little word for Marco Silva, because I think Everton might be quite disappointing, and I think if Richarlison's poor form carries on, that will crank up the heat. I thought at 22-1, that wasn't the worst price I'd ever seen. Let's talk about the handicap now, chaps. So obviously this is the list where each bookmaker assigns a team a handicap start. Obviously Man City are the favourites, so they're off scratch. And if you have the bet, do keep a track of what the handicap marks are. Don't do what I do, where you forget all about it, and then you come to the end of the season, you just can't remember exactly where you are and whether you've got any chance. But it's a great fun bet. It's a really, really clever market. And just take us through, I suppose it's more handicap marks than prices on your handicap, isn't it, Adrian?
It is indeed, yeah. So Fulham are actually the most popular one in the market at the moment, and they're sitting there at plus 45 points. Brighton are plus 45, or 44, as you said. City are scratch. Liverpool are 7. Palace are 41. Huddersfield are 47. Cardiff are 50. 45 for Watford. 12 points for Tottenham. 34 for Leicester. Arsenal with plus 16. Wolves plus 36. Newcastle plus 41. Chelsea plus 11. West Ham plus 35. United are plus 9. Southampton are plus 40. And Everton are plus 32.
What was the order in which you read them out? I'm intrigued.
I couldn't tell you what order that. It's definitely not alphabetical, and it's not going by points either.
Okay.
So
It might be. Fulham have been well back.
Alphabetical by price, let's say. Okay, so Mark, I think there's going to be some Fulham love in this section of the conversation, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I just think plus 45 gives them a real good go. I mean,
what do you like about them, mate?
I thought they were as good as Wolves in the second half of the season. Now maybe Wolves just took their eye off the ball a little bit. It was already done and dusted, wasn't it, their promotion? But they lost 1 game from Christmas onwards. That was the last game of the regular season in terms of league games. Mitrovic came in, just knitted the team together. It was the one thing they were missing, and he gave them that focal point up front. They've now got Schürrle on one wing, Sessegnon, who could be absolutely brilliant. I mean, Jokanovic said he reminds him of Marcelo and Gareth Bale, a mixture of those two, with Kearney picking the passes for the pace out wide. Mawson, I think, is a very clever signing.
They've got him now, have they?
Seri,
coming together, isn't it?
Seri was being linked with Barcelona this time last year. All action midfielder, gives them a bit more energy maybe in midfield, and they're not finished yet. And their fullback position is probably the one area that need buying. But if you're spending the money they are, they're not going to leave themselves, completely short. Because I thought Fredericks was quite an important player for them last year on the right, and Target was on loan on the left.
Christie's not bad. He's not as good, obviously, but he's not bad.
I mean, I've got Fulham comfortably finishing 12th, and it wouldn't be that amazing to me if they were top half, given the way that they're sent and the football they play. Best possession in the Championship last season is probably suited more to the Premier League. I mean, I'd be they're like 4th, 5th favourites to go down. I'd be really surprised if they were anywhere near the bottom.
So quite a strong tip for you. This
Fulham
on the handicap.
You're never quite sure who the other springer could be.
No,
I mean,
but with each way 4 places.
Last year it was Burnley, and then Man City won it on the final day. But it's going to. Yeah, I think Fulham will comfortably outperform their odds, and then you're just hoping that others don't do the same.
Adrian, have you got a handicap fancy this year?
It's one that doesn't have a chance of winning just because of the club that it is, but it's West Ham plus 35. I like Pellegrini as a manager. I think they have some great players. My only issue is it's West Ham, and they'll fall. They'll find some way to finish the bottom half.
Okay, so Mark fancies Fulham, Adrian fancies West Ham on the handicap, and Dan, what about you?
Yeah, I really like Fulham as well. I just think looking at the squad they've put together, I think you could argue they're even better than Wolves in the second half of last season. I think points-wise, they actually took more points than Wolves in the second half of the season. Played some great football that's well suited to the Premier League. And I think Mitrovic was such a key signing, halfway through the season. Signing him permanently is, for a lot of money as well. He's not messing about, Khan.
And he seems to have his head sorted now, doesn't he? He was a walking yellow card before, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I like the manager as well. I think he was very unlucky. I mean, thinking, back to Watford's history when he took Watford up, not to keep the job really when they got Flores in. But no, I really like Fulham. I think they could actually finish as high as 7th. I'm looking at the league there, and you were talking about Everton, who are a lot of people's pick for 7th, and I think Allardyce did a great job just shoring up that defence that he got very little credit for. I look at the people in that defence, and you look at the players they've got in Holgate, who I think is still learning the game. Keane, I think, has gone backwards as well since they signed him. I don't rate the centre of that Everton defence. And Silva's teams, even at Watford, when they were doing okay at the start of last season, they score a lot of goals. They also concede a lot of goals and are open. And look, those two defenders are going to come under a lot of pressure with the style of football that he likes to play. So Fulham could be very, very good. Palace I'll give a mention to as well. If Zaha stays, Kouyaté coming in to fill an important gap in the midfield. Really progressive second half of last season. I don't see why they can't be pushing it as well.
I just add throw what I mean. Producer Adams just in area said that Mawson's not officially signed yet. Big Fulham fan, Adam. So, but it should get done. But I would also throw Wolves in there. I mean,
let's talk about Wolves because they're one of the most interesting promoted sides we've had for ages, aren't they?
I mean, there's a case to be said that they're the best Championship team that's ever come up. Now they weren't in points tally. But in sort of Neves and Jota, they had players that could have been playing Champions League, never mind Championship. João Moutinho and also Rui Patricio, Euro 2016 winners with Portugal. I suppose there is one doubt about have they got too many Portuguese players and does that become an issue? But I think Nuno, the manager, knows most of these, so I don't see that. I would like to see another striker in because Raul Jimenez has come in from Benfica, but I wasn't convinced by Bonatini at all really last season, even though that he got them up. So I think that's maybe an area that I'd be looking at for them to improve. But I expect them to finish top half. I just don't see as big a difference between Wolves and Fulham, which we're seeing across all of the markets.
And lovers like me of single name footballers who could be drinking in a pub up north. There's two tremendous additions this season. Fred, obviously, at Man United, and Johnny at Wolves.
Johnny, yeah.
So there's some good ones there.
But I think that showed their roof, because Barry Douglas was one of the best players in terms of assists last season in the Championship, and Wolves just haven't hung around. You often get this kind of feeling. Oh well, he did well for us in the Championship. Just got rid and tried to improve.
I've got one issue with Wolves, and this is why I'm not completely. I don't think they'll be anywhere near relegation worries, but I'm not totally convinced that they'll be top half, and that is that at the back. I look at two of their three sort of centre backs, Saiss and Cody, are kind of converted holding midfield players, and in the Championship, I just think it's all right playing that football when you're not up against quality forwards in the Premier League. That would just be my one area where maybe they need to just get more of an out-and-out defender or centre-back.
Pepe, aren't they?
Yeah, and that would make a big difference, I think.
I'd love to see Pepe in the Prem. I think he'd be a really good panto villain to come and join us. Excellent. Now then, one last call before we wrap up the Premier League. Has anyone got any other bets that we should be talking about? Adrian, is there anything we've missed?
Yeah, so the one we were looking at here in the office is just with Maurizio Sarri and the style of football he plays, you can get Chelsea to win the league. I think they're 14s at the moment, but to be the highest scoring team, they're 20-1. I mean, they don't need to win the league to do that. We know Sarri's going to bomb the team forward. It's going to be an interesting market, this one. A lot of goals opening the league this year, but yeah, Chelsea at 20s for the highest scoring team.
That sounds interesting, Mark.
I mean, just in terms of value, I mean, I've got Wolves in my 1 to 20, Wolves ahead of Fulham. But a lot of love for Fulham here. I just wondered if Fulham, around about the 3-1 mark, were too big for top promoted.
Yeah, that seemed big, didn't it? That did seem big. And Dan, what about you? What have you got
I'm
for
just
us?
looking at Fulham at top half finish. I mean, 5-6 to 1. I mean, that is, if you think they're going to. I think there's about 8 teams that are going to contest relegation. I don't think they're one of them. So I think they're in the group of 6 teams that are going to be between 7th and 12th. If that's the case, 5 or 6 to 1 for top half finish is massive.
I'm just looking through the glass. Producer Adam is absolutely loving this. Don't worry about pre-season, just training matches. God's sake. We're trying to build you up and you come on with that negative comment. Right then, after the break, we will be looking into the Championship and further down the pyramid.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Right then, welcome back. Bruce Millington, Mark Langdon, Dan Childs and Paddy Powers, Adrian Croak. We're going through a monster big kick-off special looking at all the great anti-post bets. We've done the Premier League. Hopefully that gave you some food for thought. Let's rattle through the Championship and further down. We'll start with the Championship and how do Paddy Power bet?
So Stoke are favourite here at 9-2, West Brom are 15-2, Middlesbrough are 17-2, Forest are the big mover pre-season at 9-1, Leeds are sitting here at 10-1, Swansea 12s, Derby 12s and Aston Villa also 12s.
You go first, Adrian. Who wins the Championship?
I think Stoke win it. I think they've pretty much put money back into it. They've invested the team. They have some good players in there. Benicophobia, I think, was a great signing for him. He should bang goals in at that level. I think Stoke go straight back up, and I think they do it pretty comfortably. Yeah,
I see you're shortest in the market, aren't you? Mark, do you share Adrian's liking of the favourite here?
Not overly. I just think they're trying to buy Ashley Williams today. I mean, goodness me, I wouldn't have him. I mean, I don't even think he's a Championship player anymore. I mean, he was so bad in the Premier League. I'm not sure about them scoring goals. I mean, Afobe's goal-scoring record hasn't been the best, although he's always played for good teams at that level. And I think he offers more than he's just goals for them. But this is a team over the last year or so has lost Shaqiri and Arnautovic. And I think without those two, I think in other positions, they're pretty ordinary. They've got reliable owners, and I think that's half the battle in terms of getting back up. So I wouldn't... I'm not desperate to lay them, but I mean, I'd just throw a couple in there that I quite like. Middlesbrough being one, Tony Pulis, who benefited from those owners once upon a time. I thought in the second half of the season they weren't that far away, and now he's had a full pre-season to get hold of them. Flint from Bristol City should score an absolute bucket load for them, the centre-half that's so good at set pieces, and so is a Pulis team. If they do lose Traore, they'll get 18 million, they'll reinvest. If they don't lose Traore, they've got one of the best players in the Championship, and I think Derby... question mark over Frank Lampard, but the players he's signing, with Jody Morris as his number 2, did so well with the Chelsea Academy. I think Mason Mount is just way too good for the Championship, and I think they're big runners.
I don't have question marks over Lampard. I just think he looks like obviously he's never been a manager.
Yeah, so that's my question.
But if you were saying, would you rather have Thierry Henry or Frank Lampard?
Yeah, for sure.
I just think the guy's intelligent. Yeah. Energised, hard-working. I think he'll go in and do a proper job. I think I'd be really encouraged if I was a Derby fan. Dan, you came up with a great stat. Before you tell us who you think's going to win it, you said in the last 8 Championship seasons, only 6 of the 24 relegated sides have come back up.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really interesting.
I think, if anything, that trend is becoming more, is accelerating, if you like. I mean, you look at last season, Middlesbrough are really fancied, actually. They ended up, getting rid of the manager, bringing Pulis in, had a bit of a run towards the end, but still, didn't make it into the Premier League. The other two, Hull have been fighting relegation, had to pull away at towards the end of the season, and Sunderland finished bottom. So
the Money Club Wolves won it last year. You think the Money Club this summer might go well, don't you?
Yeah, Nottingham Forest are doing very similar things to what Wolves did. They've been involved with Jorge Mendes, the agent. They've spent João Carvalho. They've signed £13.2 million deal. Their record signing from Benfica. They've signed a winger, Gil Diaz, from Monaco as well, who's highly rated. Also been active in the domestic market. They've got Lewis Graben, who's second top scorer in the Championship last season in a £6 million deal from Bournemouth. All areas of the team. Colback's come back. He was on loan last season. Beef up the midfield. Got Guedioura in there as well. So he was already there. But I look through their side and they just look strong in a way. As Dawson's coming in at the back as well, which is they were a bit weak at centre back last season. So I think having him in there as well is a good move. Obviously, where he started his career as well, Michael Dawson. So I just think, and the manager as well, Karanka, he's gone in halfway through last season. He has got the pedigree in that division. He took Middlesbrough up a couple of seasons ago. I just think everything's there in place. The chairman, I think, he looks at it and thought these three teams coming down, they're not anything special. This is the time to have a real go here. The Greek owner there. So I just think looking at the sides coming down, with the shortened transfer window as well, to be an established club and go down, there's a lot of players going out, and you need to get a lot of players in to replace them. The shortened window makes that difficult to do. So I think Stoke have done a lot of their business early. Is it great business? I'm not so sure. They look like a very average squad to me. West Brom are still looking to bring players in at the moment. Lost the likes of McLean's gone as well to Stoke as well from West Brom. Lost Johnny Evans. Johnny Evans has gone as well. So I'm not convinced by them. And Swansea, there's even more outs and ins going in there. There's a huge amount of key players gone. Ki Sung-young's gone from the midfield. Lost one of the IUs. The other IUs it looks like it's going to Palace, as you mentioned earlier. The manager did well, looked good at Ostersund's, didn't he, last season? They did brilliant in the Europa League, Graham Potter. But, I think he's got a tough job on his hands. And I think the other team, as we've all mentioned as well, is Derby. I think Frank Lampard he's got the makings of a very, very good manager. The loanees coming in, Mason Mount from Chelsea, Harry Wilson from Liverpool did look great the winger while he was on loan at Hull last season. Got Marriott in as well to score some goals. George Evans they've signed from a decent midfielder from Reading. Their squad was good anyway at the end of last season, finishing the playoffs. Rowett had improved them. They're going to improve again. I think they've got a great chance. And breathe. I don't know if you ever listened to the horse racing podcasts that we do, Dan, but you've just taken the title of longest speech ever off David Jennings. That was phenomenal. Adrian, before we get your fancy for the Championship, what did the early Sharks get on Forest? Because it would have been a lot bigger than the 9-1 you are now, I guess, at the start of the summer.
So initially it opened at 14s. That was gone pretty fast, but the 12s is what was hanging around for a while. That was moved in then for a while, and we just had to keep on moving after that. I mean, they have definitely invested well. They're trying to go up, which is a first for Forest in a while, as they've been one of the worst teams in the Championship the last few years anyway. Okay, there's me saying who do you fancy. Obviously you started this off with Stoke, but Dan talked for so long I forgot that. Okay, right, any other Championship bets very quickly, boys? Mark?
I was just looking at Ollie Watkins, top goal scorer. Brentford create a lot of chances and he's very good.
Dan?
Preston plus 22 on the handicap, finished 2 points outside the playoffs last season. Don't look any worse this season. Made a couple of decent additions actually. Grabban as well, top scorer I think at 14-1. I thought Codger as well at 25-1 could be an interesting top scorer, but he's had his injury problems. But Aston Villa, with the players that Grabban was there, wasn't he, at the end of last season? But Codger now is going to be the main man probably up front, and he has been very prolific in this division the season before. So 25 for him.
Okay, and anything else from Adrian for the Championship?
No, just on the Preston one there, you'll want to look elsewhere as we've moved them into plus 13 on the handicap. So Dan may be right with that one.
Okay, let's look into League One. Adrian, take us through the betting.
So for League One, Sunderland are sitting here favourites at 3-1, Barnsley's 8-1, Portsmouth is 12-1, Charlton are 12s, Luton are 14s, and Scunthorpe are 16-1.
Mark, it's a long time since Sunderland have been favourites for anything. Can we trust them?
I'm one of them where I wouldn't be amazed if they won it, but I'm not going to back them just because I just wonder about the negativity around the place. They've got new owners, new managers, so maybe that will lift, but I don't see them as good as, say, Blackburn were, and Blackburn didn't win it last year. I like Barnsley against them, a team that also came down. Stendhal, the coach, is the negative because he can't speak English at the moment. But I spoke to somebody about him when he was in the Bundesliga 5, before with Hanover, and they say he was a good coach. And if he's going into the third division of English football, he could find himself way better than most of the others. And up front they've got Bradshaw and Kiefer Moore, which is way better than anybody else has got in the Championship. And there's talk in League One, there's talk about them maybe losing one or two of these players. But they said the same about Wigan last year, and they ended up dotting up in the end. I think at the moment Barnsley have got the best players. If you wanted somebody else, Luton don't need to improve much to get involved.
Dan?
Sunderland for me, yeah. I just think they're by far the biggest club in the division. The manager, Ross, did well in Scotland last season, bringing players in all the time at the moment. They've got Charlie Wykes coming in from Bradford, knows where the goal is, a decent target man. Whole of the squad's getting strengthened. I just think they'll be too strong.
And Adrian?
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with Sunderland. It's too big a team for that division. They've invested money into it. They should be able to bounce back up, really.
And give me one long shot each from League One, just quickly, Mark.
Well, I said Luton. If they're not a big enough price, Southend.
Luton will do. Okay.
No, Luton as well. Sonny Bradley is an important signing for them from Plymouth. Really good centre back.
Okay, and Adrian.
Burton Albion at 22s. They went down. They put in a good shift in the Championship. They may be able to come back up.
Our colleague Steve Davis has gone for Fleetwood and Southend. So interesting picks there. League Two now, and it's more open. Notts County and Milton Keynes dominate the market, I believe, Adrian.
They do. The Milton Keynes are really who we're kind of trying to stay short on here. They've been what's kind of been backed in pre-season, but they're sitting here at 6-1. County are still slight faves at 11-2. Lincoln are 7-1. Mansfield are 10-1. Swindon are 12-1, and Northampton are also 12s.
Incorrect use of dominate. It's quite wide open. And who do you like, Adrian?
Here, there's been some talk in the office about Tranmere coming straight up and doing a double, but I'm not a fan of it. I think MK Dons are probably the biggest club here, and usually in a division like this, it's a team that's kind of coming down and still has some money that might be able to put it back up. So MK Dons are they've been favourite with the punchers as well, and that's kind of what you have to follow in a market like this.
Okay, so Adrian fancies a fancy team, Dan, but obviously last year, good old Aki won it basically from the bottom end of the market, didn't they?
I'll give you one fancy team, one not so fancied. Mansfield have been spending quite a lot of money, got a great loanee in as well, Tyler Walker from Nottingham Forest, Craig Davis, permanent signing from Oldham, scored a lot of goals in League One, so they're my fancy team. Unfancied, Forest Green have been doing a lot of strengthening in the summer. The owner, Dale Vince, is very ambitious. They're 50-1 to win the division. That might be a bit much, but promotion 11-1 could be
They'd certainly win the greenest team, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Their carbon footprint is absolutely is through the roof.
They've got a star on their badge now for getting up to League Two, but they've also got greyed out ones, 2 greyed out ones, because they want to get to the Championship, so they're just waiting to fill them.
No way. I mean, that's going to come out and haunt them, that, isn't it? You can't do that. Mark, who wins League Two?
I'm going to go for 2 towards the top end of the market. I think Lincoln and Mansfield are both overpriced. Lincoln just improved every year under the Cowley brothers. Last year, just thought they got sidetracked a little bit by reaching the Football League Trophy final. They are in a kindy. I think they've just bought the perfect player for the way that they play, and for the reasons that Dan mentioned. They've spent very well. Mansfield were just outside top 7 last year. Expect them to improve.
Lovely stuff. Now, non-league nap, one non-league bet. And before we do that, however, Adrian, we should talk about the gamble of the summer. It's not Man City, it's not any of the teams in the top flight or even in the Football League. Who is it? Who's been the team for money this summer, Adrian?
We opened up with Salford City at favourite, thinking we were pretty short of them, knowing they'd be popular with the whole connection to United there. They opened at 5-1. We're still laying bets on them at 2-1 at the moment, so this has definitely been the move of the summer.
So that's Salford Favs for the National League. Dan, do we row in with the money there?
No, I mean, I'm just looking at the favourites have got a pretty poor record in this division. Haven't won it since 2003, 2004 when Chester won it. Luton were 2-1 favourites twice and didn't win the division. So I just think be a bit careful here. It's a more competitive division than a lot of people realise. So I'm going to row against that. Filed at 16-1 as an each way bet. They reached the playoffs last season. They got off to a bad start, improved a lot, could improve again. Sutton as well to win promotion at 12-1. They finished 3rd last season, the highest team that didn't get promoted. They're a little bit stronger, if anything. They could go well.
Do you know where Filed is?
Northwest somewhere, isn't
it's
it?
the sort of posh end of Blackpool, basically. It's very nice, very nice.
Fylde Coast, isn't it?
Near Lytham St Anne's. I had a friend who lived there for a bit, and I went drinking there once, and the pub is like Billy Beaumont's local. You remember from A Question of Sport? He's from Filed.
Yeah,
lovely. Be a nice weekend if you draw them in the cup. Mark, you got any non-league fancies?
Why, yeah, Barnet. to be promoted. I'm worried about how good Salford could be, but I mean, John Steele absolutely knows this league inside out. He's bought a lot of Dagenham players. Dagenham this time last year were quite well fancied for the for the National League. The money fell out the club, so they couldn't kick on. I expect Barnet to sort of be knocking around playoffs and then could sneak up.
Adrian,
six of their players as well. Just to quickly mention, I think Barnet have signed 6 of the players from that Dagenham squad as well.
Wow, excellent. They should call themselves Dagenham and Redbridge and Barnet. Adrian, you got any non-league fancies for us?
Yeah, the move on Salford is probably too big, so we're looking at Fylde as well. They've got money into that team as well. They've a pretty decent kind of looking stadium, which is getting fuller and fuller because Blackpool fans won't go to their games, so they seem to be getting quite popular for Fylde fans.
But there's another counter attraction in the area in obviously Joey Barton's Fleetwood as well. So interesting times on that coast. I like it when Adrian says we fancy. I feel like there's a think tank of all these shrewdies all getting together and agreeing something. So Fylde is an interesting shout there. We better look north of the border very quickly. One each from you, please, my friends. Dan Childs.
I'm going to go for just Rangers 8-1 in a 2-horse race. There was only 12 points. That Celtic won the league by last season. They got 82 points in a 38-game season. They are dropping a few points, Celtic. So with Gerrard going in there, they lost 7 games at home last season, Rangers. They've got to be better than that. 8-1's too big.
With apologies to Aberdeen fans for the reference to the 2-horse race, Mark?
No, I mean, I think it is a 2-horse race this time. Okay. I mean, our Scottish guy, Mark Walker, knows what he's talking about. He thinks Rangers are absolutely bankers at 2s on in the without market. I mean, but I thought we made a good case for Hamilton to finish bottom, so I'll be following that.
Yeah, he's a good judge, Mark Walker. Check him out every Saturday in the Racing Post, along with Mark, Dan, Kevin Pullein and all the other judges. It's always a great read, essential reading if you're a football fan. Adrian, have you got anything for us north of the border? Any teams well back that we should have on the radar, maybe?
No, it probably is just the Rangers at the 1-2. I mean, Aberdeen have lost one of their players to Salford City, which is showing kind of how much clout they kind of have in the market. So Rangers and Celtic, it is a 2-horse race. 1-2 for the betting without seems to bet.
OK, lovely stuff. Let's look at Europe then. I think I'll just say Europe. Who do you fancy, lads? And we'll start with Mark the Hipster Langan.
There's 2. One in Italy, and that's Inter without Juventus. I just think they've signed really well this summer. And they've just got Vasalko in, who was excellent for Croatia at the World Cup. I mean, Icardi possibly could still be top goal scorer, even though Cristiano Ronaldo has gone to Juventus. I think Ronaldo could be saved for Champions League, but I really like the look of Inter, and I don't think they're finished yet. And at a big price, I'm going to go for Borussia Dortmund to beat Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga. I know Bayern are way clear of the rest, but I think there's issues there. The squad's getting old, and you look at the way that German national team, which is so closely linked, the way that they collapsed, all of the Ozil stuff, Uli Hoeneß getting involved, and basically making a complete fool of himself. All's not well at Bayern. They couldn't even get their main managerial target in, Thomas Tuchel. That's just unheard of for them. If there's to be an upset in the kind of, the real European bankers, it may well be them.
I suspect that the upset might actually be Atletico Madrid. I think they're a massive price.
Yeah, maybe.
I really like what they've done. I mean, I'm backing them for La Liga and also Champions League.
They're about 4-7 without the big 2 in Spain.
Yeah, that looks like buying money, doesn't it? Maybe do a double of them with Rangers without Celtic.
Maybe.
That could be the one if you like the safe stuff. Dan, who are your Euro fancies?
I think Atletico can get to second. I think they could get above Real Madrid. I think Ronaldo is going to be an obvious massive loss for Real Madrid. And Barcelona, if anything, they're still beefing up, maybe not the first team, but the squad with Malcolm coming in as a good young player.
Messi's due an injury. Messi's got to miss 20 games at some point.
Possibly, but
I hope he doesn't. I love him. But
but I still think they would have a damn good chance, especially with Ronaldo going, even if Messi did get injured for a spell. So shade of odds on Barcelona for me.
OK, and that's it for you, just Barcelona,
yeah? Just Barcelona, yeah.
By the way, talking about damn good chance, I've got to say, the headline of the supplement, we were talking about who are the Beavers, which team are the Beavers in National League South, whoever it is. Oh, it's Hampton and Richmond, and the headline is Beavers have a damn good chance. I thought that was a beauty. Adrian, Euro fancies from you.
I'm looking at Leverkusen in the winner without market in Germany at 7s, and sticking to Germany, kind of stuck our top 4 at 901. So looking at the top 4, Hoffenheim are kind of sitting with Nagelsmann as a dead duck. He's agreed to take over at Leipzig next year. Schalke they have a great manager in Tedesco. They've lost a lot of players, and Max Meyer now going to Palace. He announced in April he wouldn't hang on. Leverkusen, they've lost Leno, but they've replaced him with I think it was Frankfurt's goalkeeper. They've done pretty well. They have a really good attacking trio. I think they could push Dortmund for it. I just don't like Dortmund as long as they're going to keep Maximilian Fella playing centre forward. They just need to buy a straight up centre forward for Dortmund to be favourite in that market, I feel.
Okay, thank you very much. Don't forget, beavers build dams. That's why it's such a damn good header. Okay, just in case. Okay, right then. All that remains is for us to pick our naps for week 1 of the Football League season. So, producer Adam, do we have Steve online?
Not be beaten.
Well done. Right then, Dan Charles, you go first.
I'm going to go with Preston at home to QPR. As I mentioned, I think they'll have another strong season. QPR, I've actually tipped for relegation. Don't know why they got rid of Holloway. I think McLaren's going to have a tough job leading a young team to safety.
Mark?
MK Dons at Oldham, both came down last season. Oldham have got some real ownership issues at the moment, and MK Dons should be among the front runners, even if I don't fancy him to win the league.
Okie doke. And Adrian?
Kicking off on Friday night, Derby at Reading. I think Reading will probably be pushing it for relegation this year, and as we said, Derby are going to be one of the teams going towards the top. So.
Okay, Dan nicked mine, which was Preston. Adrian nicked my hastily found alternative, which was Derby, so I will shut up. You can have a treble. Okay, chaps, thank you very much indeed. That was absolutely fantastic. I will just push you. If you only had one anti-post bet, who would it be? And before we do that, I'm just going to say this. Anti-post bets are the best bets you can have, because if they go right, you get 9 months of pleasure and excitement. Never mind your will there be a corner in the next 10 minutes rubbish. Anti-post bets. I know it's holiday time and you can't always put the money aside, but if you can, if you've got a few quid to put aside, it really is the most fun investment you can get in betting. So, Dan, who is your one anti-post bet for the season?
Southampton to go down.
Mark?
I mean, at the short price, Luton to be top promoted club in League One at around about 10 to 11. If you could sort of back that on Friday and return it on Saturday, you'd be having a lot on. At the bigger prices, I'd say Lincoln.
Lovely. And Adrian?
Liverpool for the EFL Cup at 8-1.
Wow, that's left field. Excellent. Thank you so much, chaps. That is absolutely brilliant. We are back next Thursday. We are obviously doing weekend football podcasts right through the season. Don't forget we've got the new golf podcast every Wednesday as well. So if you enjoy your golf betting, Steve and Paddy Powers Ian are an absolute scream on that. Do join us for that. Thank you very much. Good luck for the new season. Let's hope you get off to a flyer on the opening weekend. Join us next Thursday.
Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather, or the gym.